Today we have a good show with Steve Kost of Metal Health Artwork.
I've been an ironworker for 28 years, and I learned the skills that led me to become an ironworker serving in the U.S. Navy Seabees. About 10 years ago, I started creating this metal artwork as a way to actually occupy myself on a couple of nights when I couldn't sleep due to some PTSD. In 2009, construction mostly came to a standstill here in Chicago. And I wound up going down to the VA. Every time I went for visits, they would ask, "We see that you had some combat experiences. Do you want to talk to someone?" The counselor helped me to understand maybe what I was going through. She's like, "You can be a voice for people, and you can help to inspire others. How are you going to use this talent, and what are you going to do with it?"
Attention marketers and advertisers. Want to reach the manufacturing industry more effectively? Don't miss FMA's free Marketing and Advertising Summit happening June 25th in Elgin, Illinois. Gain exclusive industry insights and network with marketing leaders. Learn from top experts and discover cutting-edge strategies to maximize your brand's impact. Spots are limited. Register now at fmamfg.org.
Hello, welcome to the Fabricator Podcast. I am Dan Davis with the Fabricator Magazine, and this is
Lincoln Bruner with the Tube and Pipe Journal and sometimes the Fabricator.
Thanks for joining us today. We have a good show with Steve Kost.
Excellent.
Of Metal Health Artwork, and he's going to share with us his story about being in the Navy, being a Seabee, becoming an ironworker, and discovering a talent for scrap metal art.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I mean, we cover a lot of bases. We went a little bit long on this one too, but it's an enjoyable conversation. He's a good guy. It's also timely because his artwork is obviously an extension of not only helping him deal with his own
mental health struggles
coming out of the Mogadishu in particular.
Yes.
His service when he was in the Navy, but also talking with other veterans and maybe using art as an extension to help them. So being that this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I keep hesitating because I want to say Mental Health Awareness. No, May is not Mental Health Awareness. Everybody knows that Mental Awareness comes in October.
That's right.
Hug your local long-haired 70s singer. But so this will be May, so this will be timely. In his effort, mental health artwork, is it made me think of Quiet Riot song.
Yeah.
So this is very difficult for me to get through between the mental health awareness and metal health awareness artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really timely because, I mean, with maybe in Mental Health Awareness Month, there's a lot of people who are struggling with this, whether they're have time in the service, overseas or otherwise. And there's a huge stigma. And we talk about this in the interviews. There's a lot of stigma attached to it, and there shouldn't be. People need to be looking after their own health, mental, physical, and otherwise. And he's found this fantastic creative outlet with his artwork that has really worked for him, right? And so he's out there helping people discover their niche wherever he can. And it's a pretty inspiring conversation that way.
Yeah, and his work's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of enjoyable to talk about and watch or see.
Yeah.
He brought his anglerfish.
Correct. It's called Up From the Depths. When I asked him if he named his artwork, I was thinking like Sam or Steve. Well, he wouldn't name artwork after himself.
Yeah, this one's Dan.
Yeah.
The anglerfish.
Enjoy this episode about mental health awareness with Steve Kost from Mental Health Artwork.
Nailed it.
Wow, that was very smooth.
For the listeners or the viewers, that only took 2 times.
All right. The conversation goes a lot more smoothly. Thank you.
Master the principles of precision sheet metal bending at FMA's Press Brake Certificate course. In this 2-day course, you'll learn the fundamentals and the secrets to effectively working with press brakes while earning an industry-recognized certificate. The next session starts on July 30th. Register at fmamfg.org. And now, back to the episode.
Hello, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today, Steve. Steve Kost is with Metal Health Artwork, and we're going to talk about his experience, not only as a metal artist, but some of the stuff that led to that. Also an iron worker, so you're actually doing it for a living as well. So how about introducing yourself to our audience, Steve?
Hey, thanks for having me on. I've been an iron worker for 28 years, and I learned the skills that led me to become an iron worker, serving in the U.S. Navy Seabees, a construction battalion, as we build all the infrastructure. And recently, about 10 years ago, I started creating this metal artwork, and as a way to actually occupy myself on a couple of nights when I couldn't sleep due to some PTSD and some issues that I had from my combat experiences. So I'm lucky I found a good outlet, a healthy outlet, and I'm able to share that with some of the other people and hopefully inspire other veterans to look for something positive to do.
Were you ever involved with welding before you got involved with the Navy?
You know what? I was in high school. I grew up in Downers Grove and had a teacher that took me under his wing, saw some mechanical aptitude to me. And I think we all know that some of the shop teachers and back in the day used to actually be kind of inspiring and help us to find some abilities that we had. I'm pretty lucky that Mr. Engelbach would open up the welding shop early before school, 6:30 in the morning, and have me come in and run some beads. And I really, wanted to become a great welder. And when I had an opportunity to join the military, that's kind of what I was looking for. I was looking for a career in welding. So I did that. In 1991, I signed up to be a hull technician in the U.S. Navy. So a hull technician is actually on board a ship. If you hit an iceberg or a missile, we would do the damage control, fight the fires, pump the room out, and hopefully patch the hole in the hull of the ship.
Wow.
So
What type of welding equipment they're giving you to do this?
just regular.
Is it like
At
a
the time,
stick?
yeah, we had stick welding and
Yeah.
a little bit of MIG welding, but predominantly stick welding, sheet metal fabrication,
Yeah.
and some fiberglass and stuff like that to round it all out. But firefighting and damage control was the big thing for the hull techs at the
Yeah.
school in Philadelphia that I went to.
Wow, how's the training for that? Do they give you scenarios and things like that?
They
This is
do,
going
man.
way off topic. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
How do you train for mayhem?
You
Well,
know
I guess
what?
the military is probably good at that, right?
It is. And that the main thing they drive home is that when you're out on a ship, there is no fire department coming. There's no backup plan. So you got to make sure that each of the people that are underway on that ship have collateral duties in case of emergency, something they could do to keep everything working properly. And for us, that would be fighting the fires and fixing the hull if anything happened. So they did. We had a mock-up of a ship in a giant swimming pool and damage control school in Philadelphia.
Wow.
And one of the things that we got to do as one of the training exercises was go on the ship, and they had some hydraulic plates that would open. And of course, the instructors were banging on the hull with sledgehammers, saying, "Here, missile attack, missile
Right.
attack." But we're on the top of the ship, and they go, "Okay, get your breathing apparatus on. Let's go down there, get a report of the scope of the damage and go down and fight the fires and everything." And as we were fighting the fire, water was pouring in the swimming pool exercise. This thing actually listed to one side. So there was an indicator in each of the rooms. If you went past a certain point, the class would fail and you had to go back. And it has happened. And it's probably pertinent that people do understand as they're going through the training exercise. Yeah, this is a matter of life and death,
Yeah.
After the training, which we passed, my class passed no problem, and they took us up to the superstructure above the ship and showed us the quarter deck and then the berthing quarters. And I remember standing in these berthing quarters. And
What is
seeing
that?
The berthing where you sleep.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
For anyone that's
Right,
not military,
Landlubbers.
yeah, for all you landlubbers. They showed us, they go,
Oh,
here's
yes.
where you would sleep. And this is what we call a hot rack. So you would be 12 hours on and your shipmate would be sleeping in this rack. And then when it was their turn to go to work, you had 12 hours. And I was just 17 years old, and I was
Wow.
taken with the fact that, so you want me to sleep in a drawer?
Yeah.
That doesn't look good. And somebody asked, where do you keep everything? Well, they actually picked up the mattress, which was a foam pad about as thick as maybe a phone book.
Yeah.
It was thin. And they had a display under there with cigarettes and writing utensils and stamps and letters and some rolled up pants and everything. So I remember thinking like, I can't believe that I'm going to be living. This is going to be my situation.
I get free cigarettes?
Yeah, right. No, cigarettes for everybody. But truthfully, he said, anybody else have any questions? I go, how do we not be on a ship?
Yeah.
I already signed up, went to boot camp at Great Lakes, and then wound up going to Philadelphia for school. I was bound to be Hays, Gray, and underway. And the instructor said, anybody who does not come in the top 3 of this class is going to be going to one of these 2 carriers. There was 2 aircraft carriers, the Kitty Hawk and Constellation at the time, that were being worked on. And I didn't want any part of that either. So I put my nose to the books. I studied as much as I could. And like I said, I was 17 years old. I had the face and the body of a 5th grader. I was about 115 pounds when I graduated high school 6 months early. So I did all of this while my classmates were still in high school.
Right.
And so going back to the schooling, I just buried my nose in the books, studied, learned every formula, did everything I could to excel. And I did come in number 2 in that class in 1991. And the guy in front of me wanted to go to BUD/S and become a Navy SEAL.
Oh, wow.
So I moved up to number 1.
Wow.
So they gave me about 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes to go inside of the billeting office. And billeting means what kind of job you're going to do. And said, pick your orders. And I looked all over these hanging pieces of paper for shore duty. I knew I wanted shore duty.
Yeah.
Shore duty, please. I found shore duty in Connecticut. I found shore duty in Virginia and Florida, but California was where I wanted to go. And growing up here in the Midwest, I wanted so badly to go see the beach and live that California life we see portrayed in movies. So I found California shore duty, and I brought it out to him, and he goes, "This is the Seabees. Do you know what a Seabee is?"
Did you?
I had no idea.
That's
I had
funny.
no idea. I never saw the movie at the
Right,
time.
right.
John Wayne, the Fighting
Yeah.
Seabees. He told me, he says, you know what, the Seabees are a Marine support unit. You'll be building runways and bridges and schools and, firing a machine gun with one hand, driving a bulldozer with the other. And he's
Yeah.
like, are you sure you want to do that? I go, man, it beats being on a ship, so I'm in. And when I got to California, I joined the battalion. Then I was in about 600 people. They had just gotten back from the first Gulf War. And it was a great place to be. Met really inspiring people, had guys take me under their wing. And like I said, I was a boy-faced. I was still a child, and got in there and met a lot of really cool people, good friends that I've stayed in touch with to this day. Like some of the most remarkable experiences I've had in my life have been when I was in the Seabees, traveling the world, going to different places all over the world, building things, flying everywhere was my favorite part.
Yeah.
What did you learn, Steve, in the Seabees that you've carried with you since?
Definitely owe my career as an ironworker to the time I spent in the Seabees.
Yeah.
Although there's a completely different set of tools and a different way of doing things in there. But they helped me to get a leg up and actually understand structural integrity and how to work and signal a crane, working around heavy equipment on a job site, all those skills that later on paid off dividends for me here in Chicago as a union ironworker.
Did you, in fact, get to fire a machine gun with one hand?
I not with one hand. I had to use 2. I was on a 60 crew for a while.
Wow.
And we would do these field exercises where we went out to different military reservations in the middle of nowhere, Northern California. I mean, places at night, it got so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And this one in particular was called Hunter Liggett Military Reservation, way north in the state. And I remember being a sharp, young, just out of high school kid. They said, hey, you know what? We're going to put you in communicator school. So I got to learn how to do all this crypto work, how to communicate effectively on a radio. And when we got to this field exercise, my job was to actually run messages between my command post and the headquarters company. And it could have only been 600 yards, maybe a little more than that. But in the dark, all you had is this rope running on some stakes that we put out so that nobody would wander off and go get caught up in barbed wire or fall down a ravine. And I remember going one night in the dark, walking along with this message I had to bring over there, and I hear a little pitter-patter of footsteps around me. Like every time I stopped, the footsteps would stop. So I was pretty sure it was probably a coyote, but in my mind, I'm maybe 18 at the time, I'm thinking, it could be a cougar, it could be a wolf. Who knows what it is?
Yeah.
It just scared the heck out of me, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
17 years old.
Yeah, but I do like the fact that the military and the Seabees in particular for me, a lot of those, when you join the military, they look for different aspects. What is this person capable of? What can we do to help himself to get the mission forward? And I was pretty fortunate to, be a bright individual, and they put me through communicator school, different kinds of weapons training and stuff like that we did. So eventually, when we wound up in Mogadishu, Somalia, I was a communicator for my company. So each time we went out into town to work on any infrastructure, work at the port, or clean the streets and stuff like that, we would have a communicator in the front of the vehicle and the back. So I was out constantly. And a lot of the guys that I served with got to go off out into the desert and do water well drilling. We had crews that did that and help infrastructure for some of the locals there. But I was pretty much glued to the runway, and anytime my company went out. So, having that communicator background, it put me in some different positions to go out in town and stuff like that. At the time, we thought it was funny whenever anything happened. If we got people shooting at you, something like that. I think it's a defense mechanism to just kind of like,
Right.
black
humor,
let's just
right?
laugh this off and everything, and eventually we'll get out of here. But I'm glad to say that made it out of there and continued on. We went, after we left Mogadishu, Somalia, we went to the island of Guam in the Pacific.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and had a regular rotation there. Once I was there, I was selected as part of a team to go to the island of Saipan. I think there's about 11 of us that went to the island of Saipan. So I was driving a dozer, running a dozer, driving a dump truck, and we were making a memorial park for the World War II
Oh, wow.
island hopping campaign that they had. And of course, as we were doing that, we would dig up ordnance,
Oh, wow.
So you got to stop everything, get everybody back, call EOD in, and they would come in, put the stuff under like a protective dome and demolish, blow everything up. But really just, once again, all those experiences for a young guy. I did all of this before I turned 21.
Wow.
So it was really cool to be a young teenager. I mean, I was a young man,
Yeah.
but
So you did your 4-year hitch, and that was it.
I did my
Man,
4
that's
years.
a lifetime experience.
I'm telling you.
By the time
Yeah.
you get alcohol legal, you're
Oh,
got
I was
tired of-
already tired of it,
Yeah.
and I was flew around the world 3 different times, and I got to go do all these incredible things. And I think to myself, at the time, I was really just concentrating on, I want to get back home. I want to go sit with my buddies around the bonfire, drink warm beers. The truth was, I had there was only one other hull tech in the whole battalion of 600 guys, and he took me under his wing, and he said, "Hey man, make sure you're doing all these cool things. Make sure you take time to appreciate what you're doing, and you're making memories here. So, I look at all the things that we're doing, and
It was kind of like a fraternity almost. I mean, because there's a little people outside the military probably know about the Seabees, but
Sure.
to actually hear, just the range of projects, the global expanse, all over the world. It's I don't think it's something that registered with me.
yeah, truly, and
I imagine you were at one place just working on stuff around a base or something like that. But
Right.
not at all.
kind of like public works, is
Right,
basically
right.
what it would look like.
Apologies to our friends in
Yeah.
DPWs everywhere.
Yeah. And, they would fly us. So we did 7-month rotations. So I would be in my home port in Port Hueneme, California for 7 months, working on the base, going through training, learning different aspects of military life. And then we would deploy out. So for me, I went a little bit out of order here, but my first deployment was to Rota, Spain, the very southern tip of Spain in 1991. Came back home to California for 7 months. We were on a plane getting ready to go to Guam when they called us off and they sent us to Mogadishu. So my battalion was
Yeah.
actually the first ones there, cleaned
Oh,
up the
wow.
beach, got the runway patched up and everything so more and more equipment could come in. And after we left Mogadishu, we did continue to our deployment in Guam, as I described earlier. I went to Saipan, back to California. And then my last deployment in 1994 was in Crete, the island of Crete in
wow.
the Mediterranean, which is like Hawaii for European
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. And we just happened to be there in a best time of the year to be there. I mean,
Yeah.
it was awesome.
What were you
Nice.
working on?
In Crete, I was actually working on a base in Suda Bay, and after a couple of weeks, actually, on that side of the island, and they said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to pick you for the special detachment. There's an Air Force base that's closing down." And we had a couple of tension fabric buildings that they wanted to disassemble, mark all the pieces, bring it back, and erect the building on the base. So got to go do that. Now, there's a vast difference between that part of Hanya, where you had military guys, they had ships coming into port all the time, and all the mayhem with guys who've been out to sea for a couple of months and then come in to get 2 beers and they're falling in the street. And then you had the Seabees there that we drank every day for a living, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun, you know. When we went to the other side of the island and on this Air Force base, it was deserted. They still had a couple of people manning the base, the gate for security and everything. But to really reverse engineer the building, you know,
Yeah.
mark everything, detailed, put it down in inventory, put it away so that it could be taken out in the proper order and put back up. That was a great experience. And
Yeah.
something I always think about when I used to do metal buildings as an iron worker. I was like, man, this is just like back in the day, we would label the stuff ourselves. Here in Chicago, when we do a pre-engineered building, you get this whole package delivered on 3 or 4 trucks, and it's like putting together a giant puzzle.
Wow.
Really cool.
Wow. So it sounds like you felt like it's paved the way for you to be an iron worker. Did you have that in the back of your mind that maybe you would do that once you left?
No, I didn't. As a matter of fact, I got to be honest. First and foremost, I wanted to go hang out with my buddies,
Yeah.
drink those warm beers.
Yeah.
But when I did get home, they didn't have anything like the Helmets to Hard Hat program, which they have now for the iron workers and also a lot of the other trades. So had I come into the military service 10 years later, I probably would have had a really smooth transition from one to the other. But as it was, there really wasn't anything like that. Luckily, I did meet some iron workers, and one guy in particular said, "Hey, you know what? The experiences you have make a great asset to our union. Let's get you down there, get you involved, and start becoming an iron worker." And you know what? I love it. It's the greatest thing to be on a job site, climbing, putting things together, banging on the iron, calling for the crane. And you know what? There's a real sense of brotherhood and camaraderie that I didn't have for the year that I wasn't.
Right.
You know,
right.
I got out of the military kind of on my own. I would wake up sometimes like, all right, I know I'm supposed to be somewhere. My chief's going to come and reprimand me for not being on time, being there. And when I found the iron workers, I found this sense of brotherhood, sense of camaraderie. And truly, if you guys know iron workers, our lives are in each other's hands.
Right.
It's a hostile environment. It's dangerous to be up high. It's dangerous to be working on a job where I've seen guys lose fingers, limbs, and unfortunately killed. But you know what? I'm happy to say that the crews that I ran with, everybody made it home at the end of the day, and it was good.
Yeah. Are you still in the iron workers union?
I am. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a local one iron worker here in Chicago.
Okay. And how long have you been an iron worker?
28 years.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Man, time flies.
I know.
I don't
got
know
a
why.
baby
You're
face.
talking about stuff in the 90s, and I'm like, oh, it wasn't that long ago.
No.
And like,
Ooh.
average listener at home is like, dude, that was like 30 years ago.
Yeah,
And
we
you
really
only
do.
date
I think
yourself
it-
worse.
Yeah, I think it was last weekend when I looked back when I got out of the
Oh, yeah.
military.
That's too funny.
So
Yeah.
I'm really curious about how you came to the conclusion that focusing on mental health for people from your field of experience was something you really wanted to pour yourself into.
You know what? It didn't start out that way. I have to be honest. And if you guys haven't looked at my story or anything like that, I can do a Cliff Note version. But so I just described some of the experiences I had in Mogadishu, Somalia. And when we were there, we weren't kicking down doors and dragging people out or interrogating. We were there to clean the streets, work on the schools, and do things to help the community actually get stronger.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as more and more troops came to the country, that's when things kind of got out of control. And so you'd be driving down the street, people would take a random shot at you. You know, it wasn't trench warfare where we had foxholes and anything
Right,
like
right.
that. We're riding around in the back of dump
Totally-
trucks
totally
stacked
exposed,
up
right?
with sandbags. At the time, we didn't have armored personnel carriers, and we were not an actual tactical unit that needed those. So we filled sandbags, we put them on the bottom of the dump truck and on the sides of it, and we'd drive around out in town like that. And when things happen, you could duck down in the truck and, but some of the things that happened over there, like sometimes when you get shot at,
Yeah.
everything, you talk about your life flashing before your eyes, or people describe these things in movies and stuff. It's really not like that. But I could say from my own personal experience that everything kind of slows, everything stopped, and realized for a couple seconds, like, holy crap, I am in grave danger.
Yeah.
And your body actually goes into some kind of caveman or reptile, like fight or flight. And some people freeze up. Other people know how to act. A lot of times the training kicks in, everything else. But I do remember like seeing the bottoms of the leaves on the trees actually shimmering. Everything kind of slowed down, and you could see everything happening. And of course, I made it out alive from all that. But later on, as I had been ironworking for a while, I got my family, I got my young daughters, and realized, like, man, I'm uncomfortable all the time. I always feel like something bad is about to happen. And we call it situational awareness. I never sit with my back to the door. I never sit with, in an area where I could be compromised. I'm always watching for the safety of my family and even other people that are in the room with me. And I always looked at that as a good thing. It's hypervigilance is what it is. And in 2009, construction mostly came to a standstill here in Chicago. I mean, the economy turned. Things were really bad. I was one of the last guys to be laid off from a company out of Rockford that I was working for. I was a foreman, and the work just wasn't there, and they couldn't keep me working just because I'm good looking. So I had to turn in my truck and sit at home and like drink my coffee every morning, watching all the other neighbors go out to the bank, to the veterinarian clinic, or wherever they worked. And here I was thinking, man, I'm an able-bodied young guy. I want to work, and there's just no place to go. And eventually my health care, I didn't have the hours to continue getting the health insurance from the local. And I wound up going down to the VA at Hines Hospital and signing on. And that's one of the benefits of being a veteran was you get health care. And every time I went for visits, they would ask me, look, we looked in your service manual or your service jacket, and we see that you had some combat experiences. Do you want to talk to someone? And I had been pushing that stuff to the furthest corner of my mind for years, and I just didn't want to think about it. And I certainly didn't want to go talk with a counselor that was going to make me start thinking about all those things again. Eventually, after a few years, I finally relented. I said, look, if I just talk to this counselor, can you stop asking me every time I come in? And within that first meeting, kind of realized a little bit deeper, and looked at some of the actions, some of the things I was doing, some of the adrenaline that I was chasing, even being an iron worker, it was kind of a replacement for some of that intensity that I was used to. I didn't know that when I sought it out, and I certainly, didn't celebrate it, but it was just kind of part of what I was doing at the time. And the counselor helped me to understand maybe what I was going through, what I had been burying away. And we started to discuss it and talk about it. And it was pretty healthy. And then it was 2013 maybe that I started seeing a counselor. I had moved into a new house and gotten a job here in Chicago working for civil service. I work at the Water Reclamation District, which is the world's largest sewage plant in Stickney. And I work there as an iron worker, repairing the equipment that separates everything. And
clarifiers.
Yeah. So I'm in this new house. We're remodeling, updating it, and hot water heat is popping, crackling at night. The house is settling. Unfortunately, my dog that I had for 11 years, she had to be put down. So it was like really left a hole in my soul. It hurt not to have that dog and not to have something familiar from my previous life. So I would wake up in the middle of the night, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I feel like hands are reaching in through the windows. I feel like there's someone prowling outside the house. And I mean, just some of those things that triggered me. And I understand it was a stressful time for me. I talked in length with my counselor and realized what I was going through. But at the time, I'm like, okay, I'll go downstairs. And pacing back and forth, looking at my drum set. I can't play that. Can't let out the pressure that way. So,
especially at night.
Yeah, especially at 2:30 in the morning. The kids got to go to school and I got to go to work at 5. But I eventually picked a typewriter up that I picked up at an estate sale, threw it on my workbench in the basement, and just kind of turned it around and looked at how everything was put together, and I started dismantling it, A couple hours later, it was 5 o'clock, time to go to work. It was good. A few nights later, I found myself awake again. I started taking more and more parts and just laying them out on the bench, just occupying myself. I didn't want to think about why I was awake. I didn't want to think about what I was dealing with. Just trying to occupy myself. And I started to take the same nuts and bolts and screws that were holding all those pieces to the typewriter frame, reassembling little robots or dinosaurs and little things just to keep myself busy. And I went on like that for a while, about 3 years, just kind of doing things on my own. I eventually applied for an artist grant, of all things, and I got a $500 grant from a place here in Illinois Artist Coalition, and used that to buy a Hobart welder. And 110 welder, it's plugged in to the overhead door, or the outlet that controls the overhead door in my garage. I've got a little cart, and I started making stuff like that at night when I couldn't sleep, and got to the point where people would come over and ask me about how I made this thing, and it was good. And for the first time in a long time, I had people appreciating what I did, people engage with what I did, and it felt great, and it really, art for me is like show and tell. And you know what, it's a very basic human emotion. When you make something and you see other people enjoying it and appreciating it, it touches somewhere in our soul. And that's very basic, and it's also very compelling human emotion. So that's kind of how it started.
It's very common knowledge, I guess, that artwork is very therapeutic for the artists. And you've been sharing how it really was for you, even though you didn't know you were doing art at the time, right? You're taking a typewriter apart, but what is it about the act of creating a piece like the one sitting in front of us that you find solace in, or that helps you work through things?
Truly, I mean, it goes back to occupying my mind. Stop thinking about those things that are haunting me. Stop thinking about the things that got me to wake up in the middle of the night. And I'm looking on my phone. I'm looking at a fish. I'm concentrated. I'm building this thing. I'm looking through all the parts. And for me, I've got buckets and piles and boxes of stuff in the garage that people donate on a regular basis. I mean, I don't even have to go back to the junkyard anymore. I've got so much. And as I'm digging through things, I believe that it triggers something inside of the creative part of my brain. And I think it's a healthy thing to be able to pick something up and recognize a shape, or say, hey, this looks like it could be the top of an anglerfish's lure, or like a foot or a beak of an animal. So for me, just occupying myself, taking the time to create something, took me away from what was upsetting me, and occupied my hands and my time. And eventually that led into doing it more and more during the day. There was times I couldn't wait to get home from work.
Right.
I got this idea. I saw something cool today. I want to make it. And so for me, it's never been a drag. It's never been a difficult thing, but been really a highlight for me to go and create something, and pretty much using my mind. I mean, of course, it's a talent that's developed over the last 10 years now. But when I first started out, it was just like everybody else starting in any kind of pastime or hobby. It was very primitive, but I've worked my way up, and I think to myself that I encourage other adults, other veterans especially, to look for pursuits in art to actually help. It is therapeutic. And as you do these things for yourself, eventually you get to the point where you're creating them, and you're going to start to get feedback from other people, how much they like and they enjoy your stuff. And it's a very fulfilling feeling. And, for me in particular, I certainly wasn't an artist when I was young. If I was lucky, I brought something home from school and I hung on the refrigerator. But I didn't have a background. I don't have any college education. I don't have an art background. But I get to the point now where I think to myself, man, I've been missing out. I could have been actually pursuing these things with my Navy college fund, or using the education benefits. But here I am. I've done all this on my own without any help, and I'm very fortunate. I get messages and communicate with other veterans on social media, and even just adults.
Right.
And let's face it, everything that this country's been through in the last 5 years with COVID and everything, isolation, separation from social situations, like, it helps to actually have a healthy outlet. It helps to have something positive to do.
Mhm.
And for me in particular, I just happened to start doing this. My daughter helped me build an Instagram account and start interacting with people, and like it took off. And really, that's also fulfilling too, to know that people really appreciate what I do. I love it. You know,
Yeah.
and it's rewarding.
Absolutely.
So is that what led to mental health artwork?
Yeah,
And kind of
in a-
explain
yeah,
that too. How's that
in a
work?
way, you're right. I was at the VA hospital at Hines Hospital in 2019, and I had been kind of partaking in a couple of like veterans art shows, and one in particular was Chicago Veterans. Right here, they invited me to share a piece at a art show they had for one night only. So I put this crab into a leather tool bag, and I brought it to this place where they were going to have the show. And I remember standing at the bottom of the stairs and looking up and seeing everybody enjoying themselves. Like, those guys are artists. I mean, look at the fancy clothes they're wearing.
Right.
Look, there's
Yeah.
paintings on the wall already. I don't know if I should do this, you know. These guys are going to see right through me. And I remember climbing those stairs and giving the bag and saying, I got this crab that I made. And as I took it out, everybody in the room like stopped and looked at what I had, you know.
That's pretty
And
cool.
then they pulled over a pedestal like, hey, we're going to put this right here, right at the top of the stairs so people can see it. And I mean, that was the real affirmation. That was the first time I'd ever showed anything
Oh,
in
wow.
public. Now, this was 2018. I know I said earlier, but really got a sense of like, wow, man, these people are accepting me and that I belong here. And now I'm having meaningful conversation with people that have painted their whole lives and have done all these things. And I really like being inclusive, you know,
Right.
finding that in myself, I was always telling myself I wasn't good enough. I wasn't big or strong enough.
Right.
And you know what? In the end, art is what changed all that for me.
Is this the crab right here?
That is, yeah, that's it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Bike chain, huh?
Yeah, heavy duty industrial chain.
Oh, is it?
And big sprocket, man. I had to cut the sprocket with the 4-inch cutoff wheel. All the
Oh.
stuff that I make, I use 2 tools. I use a 110 welder, stick weld, and because of the different materials that I use, I have 309 rod that's kind of for dissimilar metals or
yeah.
things that stick really well. And number 2 is a 4-inch grinder with a cutoff wheel.
No
Oh.
kidding.
That's it.
And that's
yeah,
it.
That's it. I was lucky.
You got to
I-
have a vice, though, right?
I like to clamp things onto my table.
Okay, all right.
You
As
know,
long, yeah, no, I made that mistake.
hopefully, yeah. And you know
and
how
many
it goes.
pieces of
too.
artwork that
Yeah.
you've done.
Yeah. No, just in terms of trying to like do something, you
Oh,
realize
yeah.
what the hell
You're
you
right.
doing?
And you know what?
I'm not doing this right.
Yeah, I've been asked like, hey, why don't you do like a speed lapse video of yourself building things? And I think, man, if somebody watched this thing, like, look at this clown bouncing around like a pinball, picking things up, putting them down, welding these things, trying to clamp this thing to the table, and as soon as you start cutting it, it goes flying. You know? It'd be like a
Yeah.
comedy routine.
But you have the affirmation of the finished pieces being accepted by other artists, or obviously
Oh my gosh, by
other
companies,
people.
yeah, galleries, and
Yeah.
museums. And I think to myself, like, all right, I've come a long way. This is a real thing that you're doing. And I think at the bottom of all of it, at the very beginning of it, is the reason that people are so supportive. It's authentic.
Yeah.
I'm not showing up with a beret and a scarf and a long cigarette. I'm
Not yet.
not trying to be an artist. I'm just trying to be myself. I'm being an iron worker, and I'm trying to show other people that, look, there is something productive and positive you could do no matter what you're going through. And if you do it for yourself, if you do it often enough, you get better at it, then you start to get recognition. Maybe you share and you see how it affects other people. And really, that's the most satisfying part. That's the commodity, is being a human being, communicating with other people. Hey, look, I do this stuff because I'm having a hard time. And you know what? I'm so glad that you like it. I'm so glad you enjoy it. It means a lot to me to know that people would drive from across the country to come see me at ScrapFest, or people would come and see my shows at galleries and see my stuff in museums. And it's just really, it's been a whole journey for me as a person to accept that I've undertaken the challenge to be an artist. And, you know, a lot of people who are pursuing art, there is something they call imposter syndrome, where you have to realize, like, you know, am I being facetious? Am I just doing this because I
Right.
want to? But for me, it's been I can look back at my journey and realize, yeah, man, I've come a long way in
Yeah.
a short time, about 10 years here.
And
Yeah.
one of the things I find so intriguing is that, you're discovering this in yourself, late 30s, early 40s, right?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I was 41 years old
Yeah.
when I started. It was 10 years ago.
Right.
Never
And
too
so
late.
you're, what would you say to people who are maybe in that typical age bracket who maybe are like, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to do to get rid of these, these haunting feelings. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself in my free time. What would you say to them?
I would say quit waiting. And if you're waiting for the right time, that right time is never going to come. There has never been, in the beginning of my career, there's never been one incident or one thing that changed my outlook and said, hey, we need you to do this right now. That happened later on for me with Google and having with some of the other companies that I've done work for. But at the time, there was no catalyst. There was no incident that's turned. But deep down, you know what? Everybody has a difficult time. Being an adult in this day and age is difficult. It's more difficult for us than it was probably for our parents, But watching our parents grow old, pass away, sometimes we lose brothers and sisters and even children. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult. And so when you're doing a piece of art that you're, a new creation that you've figured out you want to do, I mean, kind of walk us through, like, okay, how do you go about creating as you go? Because obviously you've got a lot of disparate pieces here that maybe didn't occur to you to put together right when you start, right?
Yeah, and I can only say that for myself, my garage is like a mad scientist lab. I've got piles of material. As I'm looking for a fin for a fish, as I'm digging through, I'll come up with a railroad spike that's already bent. It looks like maybe it's going to be a duck's leg. I'm going to put that over here in a bird pile. And then I got fish, and then I got seahorses, and then I got turtles. I got so much stuff that, like, as I'm digging for material to work on one specific project, I keep uncovering all these other things that are eventually going to become new sculptures. So I like that part of the creativity, and I've learned to accept, like, my mind's like a pinball machine. It's constantly, thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead of what I'm doing at the time. Maybe that's part of what I've been through. Maybe that's the conditioning that my mind has. But in this case, it's actually paying off, and it's helping me to put things together and plan out future projects.
I do like that your website's organized like that.
You know
It's
what
very
it is?
funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when it comes to art, it's so subjective. But in a way, I like, I appreciate abstract. I appreciate something that you have to almost visualize what maybe the artist was thinking. The other side of that, I do like stuff I recognize.
And you know what? Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because the mechanical aspect of my work, when you see gears or you see Allen wrenches and crescent wrenches in my work, I try to leave those pieces whole so
Yeah.
that people with a mechanical mind observing, they could actually pick it out and point out these different things. It's kind of like a Where's Waldo, or search and look for pieces that you recognize. And one of my favorite things to do at ScrapFest in Lansing, Michigan, while the art is on display on the street, is to step back and just watch people walk by and then do a double take.
Yeah.
And just see a guy tap his wife, like, hang on, I want to go look at this. And you could see him really get down
Right.
and look very closely to identify the pieces that are in there. And
Yeah.
that means that I did my job, and it's working out great.
As abstract as these pieces are, you know exactly what you're looking at as soon as you see it,
And sometimes I surprise myself. If I work on these things at night, the next day as I'm putting my boots on to get ready to go to work, I like rub my eyes like, I can't believe I made that.
Yeah.
And you know what? From this angle, it looks awesome. you
Yeah.
know? So I surprise myself sometimes as I develop and as I get better and better at it. I think that it shows. And I have a record on Instagram of when I started versus where I'm at right now. And it's great to have that journey recorded.
Right.
I've got a couple of photographers. One of them's my oldest brother. He's an Army veteran. He's taking pictures for me. Another guy, Dan Cherry, is just made sure that we document as I'm turning these sculptures out and selling them to people. Let's get pictures before they go away.
Yeah.
And it really helps to have a dramatic picture, something that grabs people. Because let's face it, Instagram and social media is like, most people have about a 2.5, maybe 3-second attention span there, and they're constantly swiping through. So when you see something dramatic, when you see something with great lighting and a great background, really stands out and grabs people's attention all over the world. And that's the best for me, is getting messages from people in different countries. I get them in different languages, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, wow.
And I think to myself, okay, I got to copy this, go to
Right.
Google Translate, and then just read how wonderful it is, how much talent you have, how inspiring it is. All of those things are so meaningful to me, you know? I love it.
What's your ironworker buddies think about all this?
You know what? When I first started doing it, I made sure to keep my artistic pursuits separate from my work. I was pretty sure a guy would go, oh, you're going to be a hoity-toity artist now, you know? And it's gotten to the point where I have to go back and tell people, you know what? When I started doing this, I didn't want it to be Steve Kost metal sculptures. I didn't even want it to be Steve Kost anything. So I used the name Dad's 357, which is all odd numbers, 3, 5, and 7. And I wanted to create this, not a persona, but just, I wanted it to not be me. Just in
Right.
case it was a train wreck, just in case those people I went to grade school with or high school or guys who knew me in the Navy or other iron workers, like, you know, if it didn't work out, I didn't want to have to answer to that. So I
Plausible
had this-
deniability.
Yeah,
Somebody look like me.
deniability. And in the
okay.
meantime, now I've got to go back and tell people, hey, that's actually me. So I changed from Dad's 357 to Metal Health Artwork. And you asked earlier about that. I'd like to kind of share with you how that came about. Was in 2019, I was at Hines VA Hospital, and they said, hey, we're having this art show, and if you have any kind of art of any kind, including finger paint, crochet, whatever you do, bring it in. We're going to celebrate veterans in art. And the next time I had an appointment, I built this fish out of Allen wrenches, and I called it a steelhead trout. May not be 100% accurate, but I made it, and I brought it in. I had it under a towel, and as I'm walking down the hallway, Hines Hospital is a humongous hospital, and people are asking me, what do you got under there? Well, I took the towel off. Now they're looking at it like, where did you get that? I go, I made it. Well, the people are patting me on the back, high-fiving me, asking to take a picture of this thing. Once again, that feels so special, feels so
Oh, yeah.
important to actually be celebrated. Hey, I took time making this thing, and you know what? I'm glad that people are enjoying it. And I brought it to the therapeutic arts department there, recreational therapy department. I go, here's my entry for this. And they're like, this is really cool. You welded this all together. And I got judged there. And then I won nationally. And I got to go to what they call the National Veterans Creative Arts Festival. Was in Kalamazoo that year, and met artists from every medium, you know, watercolors, photography, pen and ink drawing. And at that event, the first night they would put your photo up on the stage on a backdrop, and then they had a podium. Come on up. You got 3 minutes to talk about your art and why you do it. And I remember like waiting, anticipating. They went right through the photography, everything else. They got to the metal work category, and it was a bust of a woman, like where they weld washers or nuts together. And everybody's like, look, that's Steve, that's you. And I'm like, that's a different Steve, that's not me. And the guy's not in the room here, you know. Well, they waited until the end, and they said, okay, last but not least, we have a very special guest. Steve Kost has been using art as therapy for PTSD. Let's welcome him up. Tell us about this piece. And I remember they put the fish up on that screen. I was so happy walking up there, and as I almost made it to the stage, I look up and it said mental health challenges.
Oh.
And I remember like I almost stopped walking, you know, like what, you know, that seems kind of derogatory or seems kind of weird. And it kind of dampened my spirits a little bit, you know. And I got up, I talked about the piece, I talked about what I had been through in the middle of the night, not being able to sleep, and had the rest of the week, met great friends, other veteran artists, had a great time. But when I got back to the VA hospital, my counselor told me how proud they were, how happy they were of everything that I accomplished.
Yeah.
And she's like, you don't seem like you're really smiling and happy and celebrating. I go, you know, I feel kind of weird. And it's weird to have someone say that, you know, you have a mental health challenge because of what I've been dealing with. I go, it just doesn't seem, you know, like it fits me. And she put everything down, put the paper down. She said, look, I'm going to tell you this. I have a lot of veterans that come in here that can barely groom themselves, can barely get out of bed in the morning. It's depressing. People are having a hard time. you've been through some of the same stuff and you've managed to find a healthy outlet. She's like, you can be a voice for people and you can help to inspire others. So she's like, you have to make the decision in your own time. How are you going to use this talent and what are you going to do with it? And that was around the time I turned the corner, started to realize if I'm honest, if I share what I've been going through, it's actually more meaningful than trying to build this, persona and, trying not to be myself. So I changed it from Dad's 357 to mental health artwork. And I think mental health sends a very clear message for what I do, why I do it. And in the end, when you look up mental health on Google, of course, they always say, do you mean mental health artwork? Yeah, if anybody watching or listening tries to type it in, mental health artwork. And it really is. It's kind of become its own entity, and I've done some amazing things since I started to be more honest about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I always try to be a reasonable voice for people. Like, look, I know it takes courage. I know it takes confidence to go out and say, I made this thing. I'm going to go to the Fabricator magazine and share my story with
Right.
them.
Yeah.
If you would have asked me 11 years ago if I wanted anything to do with being in the public eye or sharing what I do and talking about the things that have kept me awake and the things that I've been through, I would have said definitely not. But it was a gradual journey, and it's been a healthy, wonderful journey for me. And it's been rewarding as I go on and become more and more confident in what I do. And I got to the point now where one of the things I really enjoy doing, getting emails from people, companies say, hey, would you make this thing?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I love a good challenge. I've been wanting to make one of those for a while. So
It's funny.
Well, I have to hand it to you, and I think as having someone like you speak to these issues does help remove some of the stigma that unfortunately still hampers a lot of people trying to overcome mental health challenges and work through them.
very much.
And so someone with your integrity, someone with your street cred can come in and say, you know what, I've used this wonderful medium to help me through it. Now it's your turn to figure out what's going to help you through what you're going through.
You're right. And even though I didn't set out to do that, that's kind of how things have laid themselves out and how it's become. And you know what? I'm happy that I can be a part of that. I'm happy that I can inspire other people, and it shows me personally that I'm on the right path. That some of the events that I'm doing, some of the challenges that I've accepted and created things for people, is actually having a profound effect on my life, and also in turn that helps to inspire other people. And I think that ultimately, being honest about what I do and why I do it is what helps to make it a great story for everybody.
You still view this as like a creative outlet, not one that you have to do, but one that you want to do?
Definitely one I want to do. Matter of fact, I tell people constantly, I've had some amazing opportunities to share my artwork in highly visible places. And I could shut my garage door for a year, just make the stuff for myself and enjoy the process of doing it. But once I started to see my artwork being celebrated in Instagram and Google, it does something and says, man, I want to keep sharing more. I want other people I want as many people as everyone on the internet to see this thing. And you know what? I love getting messages from people and like, hey, check out this thing. It reminded me of you.
Yeah.
I saw this in a bar in Lake Geneva, or I saw this in Napa Valley, California. And I go, yeah, that's my piece. I made that for that bar. I made that for the restaurant in Napa. It's great. And you know what? It's surprising. And it actually, all those times that I didn't get picked for the sports teams and, didn't get to perform or didn't get those same experiences that other kids had when they were young, for me, I'm doing it right now. And you know what? There's something even more exciting about being an adult and understanding what I'm going through and the experiences I'm having. Like, I'm doing it right now. And, all those same people in school reach out and say, like, I can't believe you're doing all this awesome stuff, man. And it pays off. It's great.
So what are some of your favorite pieces?
Definitely right now, this anglerfish is one of the ones that I've been celebrating. I've been doing some speaking engagements locally, Veterans Art Show in Palos Park at McCord Gallery, and was able to share this piece. And just because it was on the news recently, one Saturday morning about a month ago, I woke up and they had this. A scientist was talking about how rarely these things are seen. So first and foremost, they had one that was vertical, that was coming up from the depths, probably in distress, probably in its last couple of moments of life. But a photographer actually captured a picture of it, and they shared that. And then a few days later, they had the scientist that was examining one that washed up on the beach in California. And
Oh,
I
wow.
remember
Like
thinking,
the
man,
universe
that-
sending you a message.
I think so. And I
Full
could think,
circle,
man, yeah,
right?
it really is. And I'm like, man, that's hideous.
Yeah.
And you know what? That doesn't look very much like that thing from Finding Nemo. This looks
Yeah.
like,
That was
You
a
know.
little dramatic.
yeah. And then as I started studying on my phone, got up off the couch, ran outside to the garage, started looking for pieces, and put it all together. I did this one in about 3 days. And I did it. I wanted to actually have it available for the speaking engagement I was doing at the gallery for the Veterans Art Show that I helped put together. Last year, 2024, for ScrapFest in Lansing, Michigan, I did a cicada.
Oh,
And
yeah.
The cicada was a really cool one, but once again, the universe sometimes speaks to me. The material speaks to me. ScrapFest is a metal art competition where in May of every year you sign up. They've got a bunch of teams. It's a lot of the same people year after year. A great tribe of the same people like myself. So the day that I actually wound up there, I found it like, man, I love this. These are
Yeah.
my people.
These are my people.
They're
That's
doing
right.
my stuff. And I
Yeah.
had a few people that were like, well, what are you doing driving all the way here from Chicago? And I go, man, this is the only place in the world that does this, that I could find on the internet that was legitimate,
Yeah. Yeah.
And get about an hour. We get an hour to actually go in the junkyard, gather materials, go back home, and you have 1 month to create your piece. And it's not themed. You don't have to do anything in particular. It's whatever strikes your fancy. So as I'm digging through the junkyard, looking at these piles of stuff, like, oh man, I know I'm going to make a car. I'm going to make a deer. I'm going to make a moose. I'm gathering all this stuff, putting in this hopper. I can't wait to get home. I get home, throw a tarp on the driveway. I start cataloging and looking at everything. And the cicadas started coming out. And where I live is heavily forested. So like, they're coming out, they're crawling all over everything. And I would just like pick them up like, oh man, I think I'm going to make one of these, And that's how it started for me. And, it just happened to be the most fitting thing to create with those pieces that I gathered. And it worked out great. I had a buyer that came from Delaware, drove to Michigan to meet me and to take possession of the piece.
Oh,
She
wow.
bought it at auction almost immediately as soon as the auction started. And so they do an online auction. If anybody watching or listening is interested, they do, they sell the pieces. They close off the street during July, one weekend in July, and they have this street festival. And they got booths selling upcycled materials and T-shirts and all sorts of household goods and artwork that is all made from upcycled stuff. It's a great event, really centered around the environment and, sustainable practices. And, of course, the highlight is all of these scrap metal sculptures.
Right.
And I really like the fact that it's every level. There's a couple guys I know that are students, just got out of high school. They're entering. There's retired women that have learned welding at the community college. And there's something in the water in Lansing because everybody is a welder
Yeah.
there. It's great because as people come up and they want to talk about the welding process and, talk about it. I just started taking welding classes at the college and know one of the instructors there that
Oh, cool.
from all this. And some of the people that I've met at ScrapFest have been the most supportive. And it's like-minded people, so it's easy to discuss how I did these things and why I'm doing them.
All kind of communities that you're connecting
That's
with, right?
awesome. Yeah, it really is. And I'm grateful to be creating this stuff and sharing it at a time when, if this was the 1980s, I would probably have a briefcase with a portfolio of all my work and have to go door to door at galleries and,
Yeah.
try to share. But
It's hard to fit that in a briefcase.
yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah,
And-
last year we spoke with Michael Bennett, who's a Chicago area artist who's
Michael's a great guy,
heavily
man.
involved in ScrapFest.
Yep, I met Michael at ScrapFest, and
Did you?
yeah, I was actually the first out of town participant in ScrapFest.
Oh,
And when I
wow.
initially went there in 2019, everybody's like, well, we've been doing this for 10 years. We've never had anyone from out of town. And I could
You
understand.
ain't
like,
from around here, are you?
Yeah. Saw the Illinois license plate there. What are you doing in these parts? But when I brought my piece back and turned it in a month later, these guys were like, all right, man, he's one of us, you know?
Yeah.
And it was good. And I got to meet so many cool people, so many talented people. There's a guy named Ivan Eiler that he is a genius sculptor, kinetic sculptures, things that move. And, you know, just being on the same street with him and Andrew Stanstead. He was actually featured on the ScrapFest documentary this last year. Him and his sons are actually creating all these different teams, all these different people from every walk of life out there. And like, they all have this in common. They're all creating something from scrap metal. And like, thank God I found a community of like-minded individuals to share with. And I've also found a great way to actually take part, and it's been the highlight of my year every summer.
That's
I look
awesome.
forward to when we're going to do ScrapFest.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, I understand you met Darla Welton out there this past year too, right?
I did, yeah.
She runs our Still Building America podcast and her and her husband Josh have been writing content for us through the Still Building America brand for years now.
Yep, I'm grateful, and that's actually when when she told me about what you guys do here and the magazine. I was grateful to actually learn about that, and I know in a manufacturing setting, it's a little bit different from the ironworking setting, but I think overall the skills, the materials that we use, the different methods of putting things together, and I think that some of your regular readers and viewers might find this stuff really interesting.
Oh, yeah. Well, almost certainly.
No, I think there's definitely an interest in people doing kind of the same work, no matter what the environment is. It's kind of a weird fraternity that it's a big house, but we got room for all sorts of people in the fold.
Yep, I agree, and I'm grateful to be able to come here and share my artwork with you today, and share my story, and hopefully inspire other people to start creating for themselves and find the therapeutic power of art.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, where can people find out more about you?
My website is stevekost.com. And you can also type in mentalhealthartwork.com. Will take you to me, and even Dad's 357. Just wanted to cover all. I've got a friend of mine that actually takes care of my website. I'm not able to do that. I have a hard time sitting for 10 minutes in front of a computer at all.
Sure.
I'm lucky that some of the people that helped me on my journey have really helped me to access and to be able to create and do things like that, like the website. Instagram is pretty much my online portfolio. You can Dad's 357 or Mental Health Artwork. And also last year I was featured on Google's search engine.
Right.
Yeah, for Veterans Day,
eagle.
which was, I made this eagle out of horseshoes and hand tools that I gathered from veterans that I knew. Originally, they had asked me to be a part of their Veterans Day. Every year they celebrate a veteran artist. And I was told that they have the voting and people nominate artists that they've been following. So all of the different creators and engineers at Google actually put into this pool. And the art director called me and said, we're interested in having you take part of this. We haven't ever had a 3D object up there, so it's going to be a challenge for our team. And you've been on our radar for a couple of years now, but like I said, we haven't been able to put a 3D object up. So would you submit 3 different ideas and, maybe you can build something and we could share it up there. And the idea was originally just to make something and send in a photo of it. And in about 3 weeks, I gathered everything. I documented all the steps that I took to build this eagle. And when I eventually finished, it was 44 inches long from wingtip to wingtip. And it's like one of my proudest achievements to make this thing short time. And I remember sending in, here's the process I used, here's how I did it. And she was beside herself, like, can you actually ship this? I want to ask around and see if maybe one of our offices wants to install this piece in their office. And I remember being like, well, that changes things. And I actually made the wings where they would unscrew. So I used 2 pipe wrenches at the shoulders, and the knurled knob that you would screw to open and close the jaws is what I used to disassemble the wings. So 44 inches, I was able to take each wing off, and I sent her a video of me wrapping them, putting them in a suitcase, shutting the suitcase, like, I'll take this thing wherever you want it. So they have a huge veteran community at the Google office in Manhattan. And the office in Manhattan is called St. John's Terminal. It used to be an actual train terminal, elevated. And so for the final piece, I found this splice plate from railroad track that's heavy duty, and I use that as a base to anchor this thing down. So it's about 68 pounds, the whole eagle, and was able to take it all, put it in that suitcase, fly out there. And when I got there, I remember I sat on the side of the plane so that I could see when they were unloading, because I knew if there was horseshoes and stuff rattling all over the ground on the tarmac, it was going to be over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I'm happy to say I saw my suitcase come out in one piece, no holes in it.
Nice.
Rolled it down the street and went to their headquarters and had a nice presentation for Veterans Day in 2024.
That's awesome.
Sharing this thing and talking about it.
Nice.
And during that time, I got to meet the keynote speaker, who was the 21st Chief of Staff for the United States Air Force.
Wow.
And after his presentation, he actually said, "Hey, you know what? I think I'd like to have this on display in the entry to the Google public sector building in Virginia." And Google actually does monitor and, watches for dangerous talk on the internet. And he's like, if we put this thing down there, it'll be a good photo op for some of the visiting senators and congressmen that come
Oh,
through.
wow.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say, like, to this day,
No kidding.
yeah, I'm beside myself. I love it. And to have something displayed prominently like that
Oh my goodness.
affirms to me, yeah, I'm doing it right.
We get to have you here.
Thank you.
I love
Thanks
that
so
it's
much.
designed for like movement, or like to be moved to a place, like
Right.
disassembled.
Yeah,
Mobile art.
Yeah, yeah, and I think my mobile art. I think that my background in actually putting things together.
Yeah.
How do structural integrity? How do things fit up, and how do they support each other? And that's what I kind of kept in mind when I did that. And yeah, I'm amazed. And you know what? I'm just getting started. I'm only 10 years into this thing. And next step, I want to start taking commissions and doing large scale public art. I had my first experience last year, 2023, sorry. The Quincy Veterans Home in Quincy, Illinois is the oldest veteran home in America.
No kidding. Wow.
And the art and architecture program here in Illinois, someone tipped me off, said, hey, they're looking for someone. They prefer it was a veteran. They're looking for a large sculpture. So I drove out to Quincy, developed a proposal to build something. And on the way back, I had started seeing all these farms that had farm implements at the end of their driveways for sale. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to build something huge out of all these farm implements and tell a story about how the Mississippi River used to be an actual highway and agriculture was our industry. And then it kind of rolled across the plains into Chicago, and we have industrial manufacturing and all the technology here in Chicago. But so I developed a proposal to build a life-size bison from farm implements, and went to Springfield and showed my proposal. And the day that I got the proposal done and everything, I made a small mock-up or a maquette of this thing, and was just like on the edge of my seat. I was excited. It was a high dollar job. It would have been over $100,000 to do that. And I remember thinking, once again, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, would I be willing to even discuss doing that? I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
Right.
But here I was doing it. And a couple weeks later, after my presentation, we got the email saying, unfortunately, you weren't selected. But this Lynn Bassa is an artist that we're going to be going with her. And I remember thinking to myself, man, I know that name. I think I even met her. And I'm by my computer and I see on my bookshelf, Artist Guide to Public Art by Lynn Bassa. So I got beat out by the person who wrote the book on public art.
Not
And,
a bad person to take
not
second
at all.
place.
And you know what? I was so nervous. And between my daytime job, my other different events that I had already, said, agreed to do things, I'm like, how am I going to fit this buffalo in? And keep in mind, I do this all out of my garage.
Yeah, I saw a video of you working in your garage. It's a tight space.
No,
It's a tight
where you
space.
don't find buffalo usually roaming.
Right. So I would be building this
Maybe you
thing
should build in
from-
your basement so you can get it out
Yeah,
easily.
take it out like a car, piece at a time. But yeah, I've got some money from Google, and you know what? I'm hoping that I can maybe find a company that'll help me. Like, here, we're going to get you some shelving and get that garage organized. I think I can actually do something a little more efficiently. So I did have the VA had a team come out and they wanted to do a documentary about my artwork. And I remember the guy's like, "So where's your shop at?" And I go, "It's behind this garage door." And I open it up and he's like, "How do you work in here?" Well, I take this little cart and I roll it out.
I imagine with all the buckets of stuff you have, you're probably not moving anytime soon, right?
No, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm hoping that I have enough money eventually here to put up a pole barn in my backyard. And,
Oh,
like I said, I did pre-engineered buildings, so I got all these plans. I just got to get the capital to put it up there. But I do have a segment coming out with PBS Arts.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah, Ion Arts, and it's going to be April 23rd at 7 p.m. here in Chicago.
oh wow.
But once again, the guy's like, you make stuff in this setting? And I'm like, yeah, it's like a mad scientist laboratory, you know? But I also think that by being honest and sharing, this is how I do it. I don't have a whole network of machines. I don't have a plasma cutter. I don't have a bandsaw. I had to borrow a bandsaw to make the love symbol that was on this thing.
Oh.
And, you know what? I think by doing it and with the minimal amount of tools, it shows, the creativity shows.
Oh yeah.
If I had a torch, I could bend up 4-leaf clovers and all sorts of cool stuff with a torch and everything else. But for the time being, I'm going to continue doing it with the simple tools until someone comes along and, I find an opportunity to get some different machinery and a better way of doing things.
Well, hopefully this will help.
I sure hope so, man.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for. Oh, we got one more comment.
Big
Garrett.
question. How many pieces have you done?
I would have to say serious pieces, probably in the neighborhood of 50 at this point.
Okay.
About 50 altogether. And everybody always asks, how long does this take? Like I said, this anglerfish was about 3 days. There's times like when I built that eagle, it was over the course of 3 weeks where I was looking for specific details and trying to find the right spread for the wingtips and get the claws just right, talons. But there's other times where it's 7:30 at night in the summertime and, I'm rolling, I'm making this piece. It's like reading a good book. And I don't want to put it down because it's a page turner and I can't wait. So I'm almost working in the dark sometimes in my driveway building these things, So anywhere from 3 weeks to a weekend to build these things.
Do most of them find homes elsewhere?
They do. And you know what? I'm happy to say, in 2022, I went to the Library of Congress with a veterans group, and I got to have this foot that I made called Achilles' Heel displayed at the Library of Congress. And they actually cataloged my story, put photos of this thing in there. And it's a huge honor as a veteran to be able to share my story on something that's that prominent of a space. It was remarkable to actually be a part of that.
Right.
But I had a price tag of $10,000 on there.
No kidding.
I remember a gentleman came up and he was like, "Man, I really love that. Would you take any other offers besides $10,000?" And I said, "You know what? $10,000 for my work, and I really don't want to sell this piece because I think it's actually going to have more of an impact by sharing it in veterans art shows and other people seeing it." So I'm happy to say that to this day, I have that piece still.
Oh, wow.
I have a lot of the pieces, and I have specific ones that I build for people that are memorial pieces or something specifically that they commissioned. But other ones like this that are just special to me, I really don't want to let them go. And because I have a daytime job, I have a career, this is a secondary stream of revenue for me. I don't have to sell these things. And there's certainly been situations where I could tell if I sold this thing to the person, I'm not going to feel good about it.
Yeah.
So I'm able to roll it back and be selective about who I make stuff for and how much I sell it for. And that also, that's something I'm grateful for. If I was a starving artist, I'd be selling things for $150 like I did in the beginning.
Well, you don't seem to repeat yourself too much in the work you do.
No, as a matter of fact, everyone's one of a kind. And I was asked if I could do a series. I do a lot of seahorses.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm building something, if I get stumped, I just all right, I'm going to push this aside. I'm going to work on that seahorse. I got a pile over here of seahorse pieces. Let's make something. And
who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who doesn't have a seahorse pile or turtle pile? But as I have been asked, if I wanted to do a gallery show with all underwater creatures or all seahorses. I go, I can make them, but none of them are going to be the same, you know? And that's what I like about this art is it isn't about the process of putting it together. It's about the actual components in there, finding the piece that's just right. And sometimes it's painstaking for me digging through buckets of material to try to find the piece that's just right. And somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I can remember each of the pieces that people gave me. I can remember specific things like I knew that this handle from a fire extinguisher was going to be a seahorse's face. It was already stamped and made that way. It was perfect. And I came across them in a junkyard. And I took 3 or 4 of them off. And I know they're in one of these buckets in this garage. I just got to find it.
That's funny. So it's organized in a way, but not to the detailed way where you still have to search a little bit.
Yeah, I could certainly use some help, getting a little more organized, clear everything out, drywall the garage, and put proper power source in there.
We're going to get you
door.
some equipment and an intern to help.
We'll send Lincoln over there.
Yeah. Actually, it's probably my skill set. Just try to help organize.
Thank God my wife and I've been married for just as long, about 28 years. The whole time I've been an iron worker. My high school sweetheart. She's seen me at my best and my worst. And you know what? She has been so supportive through this whole thing. And even in the beginning, when I started getting offers to maybe go to galleries or travel across the country to go to veteran events, she's like, we can do that. We can find a way to do it. And, I think to myself, this is so crazy. She's just going to say no.
Yeah.
And you know what? The truth is she's in this with me. And it's good to have a supportive family and a good environment at home so that I don't feel like I'm shorting anybody and not doing my due diligence in any other department of being a household.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you're meeting some good folks too.
I think so. And you know what? I think that's the best part about artwork is that it's humanity,
Yeah.
And I get messages from people in Thailand and India where they're welding in sandals, or they're just using a glass bottle to weld through.
Right,
Right.
right.
Man, and it's written in their language. I got to translate it, but the communication is just, hey, I really like what you do. I hope one day I could be great like you. Thanks for sharing your art. And I think to myself, that's good. Those are the people that I appreciate taking time out of their day and reaching out. That means a lot to me. That people from every different part of the world, every different walk of life are creating and sharing for themselves. And I think that once again, it's a very healthy emotion to make and share.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, especially for someone who's traveled to small corners of the world that a lot of people haven't visited.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I think to myself, like, hopefully one day I'm able to do large-scale installations in different countries, revisit places I've been. I've always, I've talked to some of the other ironworkers I work with, like, yeah, man, I want to actually go to the top of the Sears Tower, the John Hancock, Golden Gate Bridge, go to these monumental things that it takes a lot of guts to climb up there. I want to install a little something just for ironworkers to see, and it would be cool to actually have a very fitting sculpture placed at these places where only those guys are going to see it,
Something to look forward to. Well, thanks so much for being here, Steve. Thanks for your service, both in the military and afterwards. I think you're doing good work. And
I
I'm
appreciate it.
happy to share the story. If you have any comments, complaints, criticisms for the Fabricator Podcast, please send them to podcast@fmamfg.org. Please rate, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Anything else?
Yeah, just Google the Fabricator Podcast.
Yeah. On that note, since I'm getting snide comments from our producer friend, thank you for joining us on this episode, and good day.
The Fabricator Podcast is a production of Fabricators and Manufacturers Association, located in Elgin, Illinois. The show is hosted by Dan Davis and the staff of FMA Communications. The podcast is produced by Gareth Slager and recorded and edited by Griffin Hammond and Dana Weicker. Sales support provided by Andy Flando. Additional production support by Elizabeth Gavin, Mike Owens, Billy Culpa, Pat Simon, Brandon Geyer, and me, Sarah Spring. Email us at podcast@fmamfg.org. Thank you for listening.
It never ends well.